Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader, and today we're going to look at the vintage collection. And today's focus is really for those of you that are heavy into the vintage collection, and maybe you have a hole or two or three to fill in your collection, and you've been holding off on certain card backs. Not all of these fit this description, by the way, but most of them. And I wanted to show you a few that used to be really, really pricey, that now, with whatever you want to call it, I mean, we talked about this in last week's episode, the vintage collection is down. The prices are down, and there are some good deals to be had on maybe some of the more expensive variants, or maybe not that expensive, but you didn't want to buy it because you didn't really feel like it. Maybe it's new trilogy type stuff. But there are some fairly good deals right now for the vintage collection, so I wanted to focus on those for this video. So let's take a closer look. The first one is that seller that I mentioned in last week's video up in British Columbia. He's got a lot of really nice Canadian card backs for the vintage collection at very fair prices, I feel like. So again, I don't know this seller. The seller didn't ask me to endorse him or anything like that, but I just wanted to at least point this seller out because it seems like they're constantly listing stuff and there are some good deals to be had. So this is the VC01 Canadian Dengar with the Boba Fett error. So, as you know, we talk about that all the time, Boba Fett instead of Boba Fett. And, you know, it's the Canadian card back, VC01, not perfect by any means, but a pretty nice example. That one sold for $120. He also had a Canadian Jango Fett. It was punched. It wasn't unpunched, but it was still a very good price. I bought a unpunched Canadian VC34 Jango Fett way back in the day, and I paid quite a bit more than this for mine. And admittedly, mine was unpunched versus punched, but still, this one sold for $120 here recently. And those are very tough card backs to find if you're into the Canadian stuff. So there's the back of the card. And I would just keep an eye on that seller if that's one you're looking for. Here's a signed vintage collection card. I think I might have had this in a what to buy video a couple of weeks back, but I wanted to point it out. It did sell. This is Dave Prowse signed VC08 Darth Vader on the Empire Strikes Back card back, and it was again signed by Dave Prowse, which, you know, I mentioned that in my what to buy video. It's pretty hard to find a Dave Prowse signed vintage collection Darth Vader. Usually they're Power of the Force 2 or some other variation thereof. So I thought that was a pretty good deal at $200, and that one did sell. Here is a Revenge of the Jedi Boba Fett. This one was a beautiful unpunched with the prototype Fett offer. So this is the retail release, not the SDCC offerless version, but I did want to point that one out. That one sold at $192.98. An Anakin Skywalker foil example, also from the same seller. He's got one more still available, but this one did sell. VC13 foil Ultimate Galactic Hunt. That one did sell at $200. That seems a little high to me. This seller usually has very nice minty examples. I hate that word, by the way, minty. But he always has really nice examples, but he always prices them at the very upper end of the scale. So keep that in mind. And maybe we'll start talking more about the thesis of this video, and that's maybe looking for certain examples that you've been holding off buying. And one of the, obviously, the holy grails for retail releases for the vintage collection is the Canadian VC20 Yoda with the Empire Strikes Back image. And it's got the multi-language name pill. Very tough to find this one, very expensive. Pretty good shape overall. You know, they did a nice job of showing all the edges there. It was a punched example, but, you know, we've seen some graded examples. A year and a half ago, this was going for, I think, the high price that I remember for a graded example, and it was unpunched, but it was a graded Canadian VC20 Yoda, and I think the highest price we got to was $2,800. And even the punched examples were typically going around that time frame, anywhere from $1,200 to $1,600. This one sold for $900. I've seen some on Facebook, in the Facebook groups, go for $700. So I think that if you're trying to pick this one up, it's obviously probably the most expensive of the vintage collection retail releases, the alternate image VC20 Canadian Yoda. Now's not a bad time. I feel like now's a pretty good time to grab that one. Likewise, Dagobah Landing Luke has also come down in price quite a bit. I found one that was a punched example of VC44 that sold this week at like $44. $44. This one sold for $80. It was the lighter blue saber variation, which, you know, most people say that there's not really that big of a difference in terms of availability. I've just found personally that the lighter blue saber is a little tougher to find, but it might just be my imagination, my mind playing Jedi tricks on me. But this one did sell at $80, which is still not a bad price at all. But like I said, I have seen some in the 40s now at this point for punched examples of VC44. But even the unpunched has come way back down to earth. I mean, for a while there, it was like $175 for an unpunched VC44. And now I feel like sub $100 is very doable for an unpunched example. Ayla Secura is another one. This one was listed at $50 in an auction and in only one bid. And this one was routinely closer to $100. So this is VC58. Ayla Secura with the Darth Maul offer, US card unpunched for $50. That's a pretty good deal and probably worth looking for if you don't have that one yet. Now, here's an interesting dichotomy. There was two different Darth Malguses that sold on the same day. One of them sold for $50. That one was an unpunched US card. And then this one was an unpunched US card. That one also sold the same day for $100 plus shipping. So we're talking 2x on the price difference. And I didn't really see that much of a difference in the quality or condition of them. You could maybe make an argument this one was in better shape and pretty clean, but for $100 versus $50, I don't know if it's worth that much of a difference. So I think Malgus is another one that if you can get it for that $50 price point, I'd grab it. I mean, that's a good price point to aim for. Typically, they're closer to $75 to $80, somewhere in that ballpark. But this one sold at $50, this one sold at $100. So there are deals to be had out there. Or a Marco is maybe one that I feel like it dropped to sub $100, but lately it's kind of bounced back up a little bit. This one was, in all fairness, a buy it now situation, but that one did sell at $160. I usually see these lately selling in the $110 to $125 range. So maybe you get lucky and you still find one for sub $100, but they did get down to that price point fairly recently, but I feel like lately that one's on the upswing and probably one to put on the back burner for now. This is one that I would absolutely grab right now if you still need this for your collection. That's VC115, the Emperor's Wrath version of Darth Vader. This was a beautiful unpunched example, and it sold in an auction for $90. $90 for an unpunched VC115, and it looks super clean. I mean, I didn't see anything really wrong with it at all. And I mean, for a while, this was going for over $200. So if you are looking for that one, that one sold at $90. This one sold at $120. Either one of those prices for an unpunched VC115 are very good, in my opinion. So keep an eye out for other good deals like this. But that one has drastically dropped in price, and now is a very good time to pick it up. Likewise with the Imperial Assault Tank Driver and Commander. Both of those have come back down just a little bit. This one sold for $63. Again, from a seller that typically prices at the upper end of the range. I think you can find the Imperial Assault Tank Driver from Rogue One a sub $50 right now, a little bit more for the Tank Commander. But those are two that used to be very pricey that have come down. Luke Skywalker Crate is another one. This one sold at $75. I have seen some sub $70 now. For a while, they were going $85 and up. But that's another one to keep an eye out for. This is another one that I know only Juan Kenobi talked about because there was a little spike there. I don't know if you all remember that. It was probably over a year ago at this point. But there was a spike where VC156 was just going stratospheric. And maybe it was just one random auction that caused it. But it like snowballed into like 3 or 4 or 5 sales in a row that were all over $100. It was like bam, 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 bam. And, you know, it's looking more and more like the new Jedi Order trilogy of movies is going into production. They're on their 4th writer now, apparently. So we'll see if it actually ends up happening. But, you know, there is probably To me, this is the best Rey from the Rise of Skywalker, VC-156. I just like this particular card image and figure. But if you're looking for that one and you've been putting it off because it's new trilogy related and you're like, who cares? Now's not a bad time to get this one at $55. Velkin Teziri. I don't know who the hell this person is, but apparently he was a skiff guard. This was an interesting sale, though. It's a fairly recent release at VC288. That one did sell at $80, $80 on that one. The 4-pack from the HasLab Ghosts. These have really come back down to earth a little bit, as I expected they would, and as I told you they would. Right when the Ghost was kind of coming out and getting into collectors' hands, these 4 figures that were packed in with the HasLab Ghost were going around $350 to as high as $400. These 4 sold in an auction for $243.50 free shipping. So now's not a bad time to start grabbing those. You know, that puts you at about $60, $65 a piece. That's not a terrible price to pay to get all 4 of them at that price point, just given what you see them go for separately now. Zeb Aurelius can go routinely for $60 to $70. Kanan, maybe a little bit more. So I feel like if you can get all 4 of them in an auction like this for $243.50, not a bad deal at all. A couple of graded items before we finish up the video. Here is Wedge Antilles. This is obviously the 2012 Darth Maul offer version. Unpunched US card, uncirculated 9.0 gold level on AFA's Pop Report. This one sold for $120 plus $14 shipping. And then the only other graded item from this week was a CAS 85 plus Zam Wessel unpunched US card. That one sold in a buy it now for $125. So anyway, just some thoughts, just some random ideas for $50 to $100 type items that maybe were on the back burner. Just given the big flood of new releases, people have been kind of putting off filling out the holes in their collection. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave me a like, as it does help out with the channel. Thank you, as always, for watching, and I'll be back soon.